Hello, good evening, and welcome to the SSF Romcast. I am Jessica, and I am joined by the lovely Andy Dwyer to my April.
Emma, I did not get that reference. Andy Dwyer to
That's
April.
those are the ones out of Parks and Recreation.
Oh, is that Parks and Rec? Yeah,
Yeah,
because
there we go.
I have not
Go on to
watched it.
TikTok.
This
Have
this
you
is
not?
for my sins. I
Oh,
think we started to, and it's funny, but I don't think it quite caught Dan's
oh,
sense of humor.
it
And
was it.
so
Ron Swanson for us just
yeah.
did with his
But
bacon,
mhm.
vegan bacon.
There we go. Yeah, that's it. So that's the characters.
That's the
So,
yeah.
so
Go to
when
TikTok. Watch.
go back a few weeks. It'll be a couple of weeks back.
Yeah,
There will have been a TikTok that makes sense for.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Cryptic. It's like a treasure hunt for
yes.
people.
Well,
We're
the
just
Easter
splitting the
eggs.
clues.
Yeah, Easter eggs for each one.
Yeah.
But
Mm,
yeah, speaking of things and stuff that's interesting, we are here week 4. We've got some more books for you.
we do. We got two more. I'm really
Wow.
hoping yours doesn't
If
send me into a fit this week.
you haven't watched last week yet, please go and do so
Oh
because
my.
I will when it's back up and on all
Yes.
the things.
Yeah.
Mm.
It was, yeah, pretty funny. Yeah, you're gonna have to give me like a content warning for, I don't know. You know my sense of humor, I guess, sort of. Is
Well,
there anything liable to make me collapse?
not in this one. It may make you stop and go, huh, more than anything else.
Okay.
But then when I have books like that, yours then comes out and makes me go, huh, because there's like severed limbs and stuff. So,
Mm, this is it. We just like
oh,
surprise each other.
we do. Surprise, surprise.
Hmm.
But yeah, so yeah, as with the last weeks, we don't have a specific thing to give you, but we have
Hmm.
one each because we each have a book
Yes,
that we link back to.
that's
So I think we're doing this in this bit, aren't we?
yes, we
Yes,
have been, I
we have
think.
been. We think so. Yes.
We're surprising ourselves because we've changed
Yes.
it up so
Oh, okay.
much.
Everything. And by the time we get it right in 2 weeks, it'll be over.
That's it. Well, we'll be
Mm,
back to how we used to
back
do
to
it in the
normal.
final episode, and then it will be over. And we'll be
Yeah.
like,
What? We need to do
okay.
15
So,
books.
what's your book, Jess? And
Okay.
what's your
So
link?
my book is called Beastly and Bookish by Catrina Bell, and my link to the one prior, which was Honeysuckle, is Small Town.
Small town. Lovely. I think I've heard
Mhm.
of that one, Beastly and Bookish. Or maybe I just feel like I would because
The
it
cover
sounds
was
excellent.
fantastic when I saw it. I
Yeah,
was like, "Ooh, what is this?"
nice. Um, okay, so my one is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches
Ooh.
by Sangu Mandanna. And my link is Found Family. But I could
Uh-huh.
have, when I realized when I was writing my notes, and this is one of the things I was talking to you before about, I could have had quite an easy link in that the heroine's name in this is Mika. And last week, in the hero's name was Micah.
Yeah,
It was like I had to look. It's like you could say those the
yeah,
same.
whichever way you fancied.
This is it. Depending on where you're from, you might have pronounced those the same way, but
Potato,
they're
potato.
not.
Yes.
This is it. So if I
Mm,
slip up and say Micah, that will be why, because I was
it's
talking
fine.
Micah last week, and then
Mika.
when I could speak last week, and it's Mika this week.
There we go.
So
We won't hold it against you. It's fine.
there we are. So, right, let's
Get
go.
into it.
Okay,
So we have some books.
we do. We
Who's
have
going
a
to go
book
first? Are we rock,
each.
paper, scissors in?
It's you this
I think
week.
it is me.
It is you. Yeah.
It is me.
I
Okay.
don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's always a good thing when I have to talk and make words sound.
Yeah, I just meant
Okay.
like if you send me off and then I just don't even get to talk about my book
That's
at
it.
all.
All right. 8 hours later, then yes, we are.
Mhm.
Sorry, next week.
Right,
Okay, so
let's
yeah,
have it.
my book is Beastly and Bookish by Catrina Bell, and I've gone from Crazy Monster Stalker to Festive New Year Romp. So
Oh,
I've kind of yeah, my scales have gone boom this time.
yeah.
So we start with Jaramant, who is our beast. He is a demon. Everybody calls him Rom because it's probably just easier. And he lived in this little village which was called Winter Bliss. So he was there as a kid till he was about 15-ish. And it's this lovely little place, kind of what I would imagine you see on these Hallmark Channel places. It's like a little ski resort. So you've got some of the posh people who live over that area, and there's a lovely little town, and there's actually a volcano that erupts every so often. So
Okay.
it's kind of got a mix of all of the things.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he moved away when he was a kid because the demons in this world, they are very focused and orientated towards business and bettering themselves and earning more money, and they're fantastic at bargaining. So his parents started like a coffee wagon sort of thing at a local university and did
Mm-hmm.
really well with it. And because it was doing so well, they pushed and pushed and pushed, and all of the family got involved. And living in a tiny little town, they couldn't expand. So at 15, they upped and moved him off with not a huge amount going on to say why they'd gone. They just, everybody, all
Oh,
the
right.
demons and
Okay.
people know. Yeah, all the demons and
Mm-hmm.
people knew what was going to happen. So they upped and off. But yeah, he's now kind of like quite a big deal within the family. And he's come back to Winter Bliss because he wants to open up one of the franchises in the town. And there's a lovely little building he's found. It fits in perfectly. And he loves books. He had an accident as a kid. I was going to say this later, but it makes sense now. When he was a kid, he was playing with one of his siblings and he happened to fall down like a cliff into a ravine, broke one of his horns, scarred up his face. And when he was in the hospital for quite a while, the nurses kept bringing him books. So he gained this massive love of books.
Mm-hmm.
But his parents were not really for it because it didn't better him in any way. He couldn't build from that.
Okay.
So when he finds this location for one of their coffee shops, he's like, okay, what I want is the coffee shop and I want to put a lending library in and just be the perfect place in the world, basically, for most people, I'd
Nice. That
hope.
does sound amazing.
Really does. So he's gone back to this little village, and his parents aren't really happy that he's there because they're like, well, how can
Oh,
we do more? How can we make this bigger? You can't stay there and do things. So
leave him
he's there.
alone.
This
He
is it.
wants
So
his coffee and his
he
books.
does. But he wants something else as well. So yeah, he's there and he knows he can't stay long. He's there just in this period between sort of the Christmassy festive time into New Year. And yeah, he's just trying to secure this building, start it up, and then he knows he's probably got to be off pretty quickly. But when he was there as a kid in the library, he met a lovely lady called Noelle. So Noelle is a female character, and she now works in the little library that's there. She kind of, it's a non-profit based thing. She took it over from her uncle who worked there for years, and she basically spent every spare minute she could in there with him, learning the ropes and bits and pieces. And obviously she met Ron when he turned up because he would always try and sneak in when his parents didn't know.
Yeah.
So he had like a sports class after school, but in the end he kind of wormed his way out of it, and he
So
used to
cute,
always
Jess. It's all so cute.
I want to pull my face off and be you underneath.
Imagine.
My face off. But yeah, so yeah, basically she was there and he was quite a shy, retiring young little thing. And he loved her so much, but he was quite quiet. And she would always chat to him about the books he was reading, and she was really open and outgoing. And she liked him quite a bit as well. But because they were kids, they couldn't say anything or do anything. And when they left, she was kind of like really put out that he'd just gone and disappeared.
Oh,
Because, it's like, well, where best friend, where's he gone? What's going on?
yeah.
So yeah, as an adult now, she remembers it, and she's had a few little flings and things in the past, but she kind of doesn't dwell on relationships because people who come are usually touristy. So
Right.
they're
Mm-hmm.
kind of, yeah, they're there for the 2 weeks and then they're finished. So, she doesn't put much stock into relationships.
Mm.
And she can't because the library is failing. It's in a really beautiful old building, but it's been there for 20, 30 years and the building is falling apart. Because they're
Mhm.
non-profit, because they're basically a library,
Yeah.
there's no money anywhere. And she's petitioned to the local council, I'd imagine, to kind of put money into it. And they've said no every time. They put money into the stuff that brings people in. They want the tourists, they want that money. So yeah, she's running an event at New Year's to try and bring some funds into. She's gonna she's made the decision in the end. Her uncle had to leave. He's got this early signs of dementia, so he's kind of have to go. And she's had to put him into this nursing home. So she's trying to fund that. So she's made the tough decision. She's going to have to get rid of the building and downsize. So she's
Hmm.
trying to get funds in to get a new building. And Ron, who is kind of incredibly business minded, is going to be there to kind of give her a hand.
Yeah.
So when they first meet up together, she sees him through the window with her uncle, and her uncle's like, "Oh, Ron's over there." And she's like, "No, he's not." Yeah, she kind of thinks that, okay, isn't, but it turns
Yeah.
out that he is. And yeah, he comes in, doesn't want to approach her because he thinks, God, she won't remember me. She won't care about this. So, but he sees the flyer for the event. So he texts her and says, okay, I'll donate $200 if you can bring me a selection of these books. And
Hmm.
then she kind of texts him back and gets a bit of an idea for what sort of things he'll like. And there's some bits and back and forth. And in the end, they do meet up and she realizes it is him, and
Oh.
sparks fly. And he's having to stay in a cabin in the woods because this massive festival at New Year's pulls everybody in. So it's the
Mm.
only place he could get, this tiny little cabin. And of course, there's an avalanche.
Of course. Snowed in.
And that's where I'm leaving it.
Nice. Oh, it's very cute.
And she delivers the books to people on roller skates. She is just the cutest. The cover is him. He's big and he's red, and she's got red
Okay.
hair. So he's like up
Yeah.
here, and she's this tiny little dot of a thing with purple roller skates on, and I'm just like, oh
Oh.
my gosh, you are squishy. Oh, just squish
You did
together.
seem, as you were explaining it, you were like getting more and more like. So you do like cute
I,
stuff, but only
I
if
do
it's a demon.
squishy. To have something somewhere that, but we said this, but I can't write I'm trying to write a normal person, and my brain just kind of goes with wings,
With
just
wings,
with wings, with
with a
horns.
tail.
Yeah. And she reaches for his head, horns, just,
Yeah,
it has to, yeah,
they're
I can't
handy.
help
They're
it.
very handy.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So mine is very cozy too. It is
Hey.
very cute and cozy. It's even similar time frame. It
Ooh.
all it all sort of leads up to like the winter solstice, Christmas time,
So
and
cool.
everything. So it's very autumn. Um, so Mika is a witch, and it opens with her going along to a meeting. Now, it's like in the middle of nowhere in the Outer Hebrides. The witches of their not strictly a society, they can't call it a society, only meet up. I think it's every third Thursday every 3 months. They're not
Okay.
allowed to be in contact with each other or anything in between. This is the only time they get together. And her like adoptive mother, Primrose, is the person that organizes it. But she's such a stickler for these rules because obviously if anybody finds out about witches, it doesn't go well for witches. This is like the normal
Salem.
world. Yeah, exactly. This is it. So it's very quiet. But there's this other element to being a witch is that because of a spell that went wrong or a curse or something like that, when a witch is born, they very quickly become an orphan. It like yeah, it's horrible. And sh witches aren't always necessarily born to witches. They can be just born into a normal family, and then that happens, and then they kind of have to come to terms with their magic, or and cope with it. Um, and get in contact with other witches at a distance because they're all like spread out and have to keep far away from each other. But Mika's actually she was the daughter of a witch who was also the daughter of a witch, so she had no family, and she was found by like uh social services, I think it was in India, and then Primrose came across her and adopted her. But she brought her back to England and kind of just left her to be raised by nannies and things like that. So they have a relationship, but it's not a very close one. And Mika just basically remembers being quite lonely, and they're still quite isolated from each other because obviously they have to keep it secret
Yeah.
from normal people. And also they can't really be in contact the rest of the time. She's one of the younger witches too. There's only a couple that are around her age, and that's the only time they really get to see each other. And she's started doing a little bone of contention that gets dropped in as they're like chatting, doing their minutes of what's going on, things they might need help with, that kind of thing. If there's
Best
been
read
any
ever.
sightings, this, that, other.
So cool.
Mika's been doing a little bit. She's just been playing a little bit on Witch Talk, but like playing at being a witch because no one
Oh,
will
okay.
believe her that she is. So she, it's just for fun. I think it's like just so she can kind of enjoy it,
Yeah.
and be in contact with people who, love that
Think they are
magical side.
witches. Yeah.
Yeah, this is it.
Pagan side. Yeah.
Yeah. But she's in a bit of trouble for that. And she's like going, nobody believes it. No one thinks I'm really doing. They think it's special effects, it's not a real thing. And immediately it like swaps to this house in Norfolk, which is called I think it's Nowhere House. I think that's the name of it, Nowhere House. Where there is an elderly guy called Ian who is talking to Jamie, who's the hero in this one, who's a librarian. And he's trying to convince him. There's a housekeeper there, and they basically are raising these three young witches. And um he's convincing Jamie that they need to get in contact with Mika because he's seen her videos and she's the real deal.
He
He's
knows.
figured out she's the real deal. Jamie doesn't know, he doesn't believe it, but it's later on you find out why kind of Ian can see this, but he can notice this thing that's different, that's the same as with the girls. And he's like, we need to get in contact with her so she can come here and teach them how to use their magic because it's like going haywire. And they've also got this problem of the house, and the actual legal guardian of the three girls is Lillian, who's another witch, but she's never there because she's an archaeologist and she's always off on a dig somewhere.
Aren't they always?
So she's not taught them anything, and she's not there. She's just warded the place so it's safe, so no one can kind of see what's going on. But obviously that means the girls are just there, quite isolated as well, being left with like this lovely like found family of Ian and his husband Ken, and the housekeeper Lucy, I think it is, and Jamie. And yeah, they want to get a magic tutor in, and Ian's like, Ben, this is the one, we need to get in. Jamie's like, he doesn't want to have anybody in, you're getting the
Yeah,
vibe
yeah.
already.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like suspicion, not, he doesn't want to risk it. But the solicitor, Lillian's solicitor, wants to come in and get these documents, and he's a real bigot, and he's very suspicious of all these waifs and strays that Lillian has in her house, probably taking advantage of her in his head. And like, he's going to come in, and he's set a date, which is like around Christmas time, to get these documents, and they can't risk him finding out anything. So they're like, we need to get her in so she can kind of, help.
Christmas
But
miracle.
maybe.
Oh.
I couldn't say. So Mika gets this email, and she's curious because it's worded like they genuinely want someone, but then she gets in contact with him and she's like playing it a bit coy, and she just goes up to visit because her work contract has finished, and she tends to move around quite a lot anyway because she's got no real ties. She can't make ties, and it's just easier. But when she gets there, she she goes to drive past the place, but obviously the wards have like made it hard to find. And then she goes in, and she's like being bamboozled by all this like friendliness of everybody, apart from Jamie, who's
He's the
like, yeah,
grumpy.
that's it. But the straight talking one too. And it's very difficult to begin with. They've got this like, no one really wants to be the first one to say the truth. It's like, we know there are witches because they're witches. And she's like, are they though? And like, they take her to the back door, and they're in the back garden, these three little girls. They're like 7, 8, and 10. And initially she's like, well, they can't be because, you know, you wouldn't possibly be in the same families. It's only really like on the odd occasion twins, but it's clear they've all been adopted from like different families.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're like playing at a tree house, and there's like one of them setting fire to the rope ladder and stuff. And like, she's like, ah, I see.
Yeah.
And she's you know, she's thinking this is really dangerous because they need to stay hidden, and the more witches are in one place, the more magic is attracted to it, which is why they have to keep separate as well. It's really cool how they do the magic. So the magic is almost like alive, and it's like kind of mischievous, and like it's attracted to witches because they can wield it, and then it depends who has the stronger will over the magic as to whether or not they can do their spells well and stuff. And obviously with the 3 young girls, they don't have the control, so the
Chaos.
magic's like going haywire.
Oh, I bet he's having a whale of a time though.
Yeah, that's it. Lovely. And she's not sure. She's like, come on, they're please come and help us, you know. And she's like, but if I'm here, that's just going to attract even more magic. I don't know. And she goes to leave, but she doesn't even get out of the grounds. She's kind of sitting there, and she's like, if I don't, and then they get split up, and then they'll be on their own, and they'll grow up like I did, and it was horrible and lonely, and she can't do it. So she turns around and goes back, and yeah, I'm gonna leave it
You
there
leave it
because
there.
then
Oh.
then it ensues the stuff. But it's a very sweet and cozy one,
It does
definitely.
sound. I'm surprised we don't get more people email us going, for the love of God, why do you stop? Tell me more things.
I know. What the point is, go read the
Go
book.
read the book. Yeah.
Go read the book.
Oh, I will. 2 weeks.
Yes. So what was your
So,
cocktail?
okay. So
Are you
again, this
drinking it
time
now?
I did. I have it here. I have picked
Mm,
an espresso martini because
lovely.
it's books and coffee shop, which is
Yeah,
me.
of
Mine,
course.
yes, mine has more cream in it because I'm already quite bitter. So I put a little extra in mine. Um, so I should warn you about this, shouldn't I? I've got to warn Emma about giggly moments.
You
But
do.
yeah, so it's vodka, coffee liqueur, and espresso normally.
Okay.
So yeah, that's mine.
Nice. Okay. Well, I went for a gin secco because yeah.
Ooh.
So it's quite a simple one. Um, but I went for that because the pink gin is something that they drink together later on in the book. They drink whiskey to begin with, but she hates whiskey. She drinks it. She's like, she's just making herself.
It
So
tastes
he
like
next
arse.
time, because she stays up in the attic. She's got this really beautiful attic that they've given her to stay in. And she like sometimes she's doing like spellcraft at night and things like that. And Jamie doesn't sleep very well. So of course they have like little midnight chats and things like that. And the
Rendezvous.
first time it's whiskey, but then after that, another time he brings pink gin because I guess he noticed that she didn't
Because there
really
would
like
be
the
regret
whiskey.
from the whiskey.
I
There
think,
would also
well,
be
they say
regret
that
from the
about
gin.
gin. Yeah, I was going to say there's regrets.
Yeah.
I don't think they do regret it actually by the end, but
No, I'd imagine not.
um, yeah. So the first bit is the prosecco, and then the second like plot point is like either the pink gin, but you can pick your kind of pink gin to go in it, which I thought went quite well. And
Mm.
then you don't have another alcoholic or liquidy ingredient. You just add a bit of fruit, whichever you want, like strawberries or raspberries. So
See, gin and prosecco does sound like the biggest pile of crazy. Anything with
I felt
bubbles.
like it was very basic. If
Yeah, it
if
is,
that
but
but yeah, people will enjoy it.
I have both,
Bubbles
so I
get
may
to
try
me a
it.
bit.
Bubbles
Yeah.
so much. I have a
Yeah.
story about bubbles, but I won't tell you now. I'll tell you later.
Okay, tell me later. Tell
Give me
me
one of
later.
those stories.
As
Um,
if there's anything we tend to keep. We do keep some stuff off. They must be thinking, what the hell don't they say? Considering what we do say.
yeah, one day the outtakes will be in the world. Hopefully not, but maybe.
So,
Okay.
what's your next
Okay.
point. Yeah.
So for my coffee liqueur, I have gone for location. So I did mention that it's kind of this little tiny, lovely sounding place in America.
Mhm.
But this is it. I've not been to a nice little village in the US. I'm assuming from what I have seen that they are all like this and they've got lovely pretty buildings on a main street and everybody knows each other and people bring each other cookies and all the jollies. And that kind of works for these type of cozy
Mhm.
books and stuff, but I think location is a really interesting thing because if you move this kind of story to the UK, it would end up
Yes.
like an episode of Shameless, but or EastEnders or something along those lines. Just because, as we discussed before we went on air, if you have seen an American Werewolf in London, when they go into the pub, everybody, they're a local and they turn around and they just look at you. And that happens to British people in pubs in Britain. I've been into pubs and there's just that moment of everybody in the pub knows each other, but rather than the friendly vibe, there is a bit of a,
Mm.
who are you and what the hell are you doing here?
It's really funny because like I read quite a lot of like rom-commy stuff too, like
Yes.
contemporary romance, and quite often they love a little UK village setting or people all getting to know each other. But obviously, like my debut was set in a village in in Sussex, and I found like it wasn't that I wrote it to market, but in order to embody the kind of the wholesomeness of it, I didn't entirely, but I did have to dial back slightly my feelings of it not being as friendly as it seems
Yeah.
like if you're an outsider coming into a village, particularly because I grew up in London. So
Yeah.
I find small towns and villages
They're a
quite a
weird.
different vibe,
Yeah.
a very different
Yeah.
vibe, you know. Um she does, yeah. My character, she was like, she lived in London too, so she could notice the differences. And they
Yeah.
talk about it a bit, but I was like, but they also have a hotel, so you could have the
You can
friendly
escape.
community type
Well,
stuff.
yeah.
It is
So,
friendly communities. It's just
yeah.
that thing of
It's the initial thing. Yeah. So I suppose as
it's
British
a
people, we
local
are
shop
allowed,
for
yeah,
local people.
yeah, we're allowed to kind of go, okay, this is how it can come across. But, once you've
Yeah.
been there and people chat to you a little bit and the initial iciness goes
Yeah.
away,
And
people are lovely. But
is it different as well? Because I always hear like up north, you
yeah,
are
you go
far
above
more
Watford
inclined
Gap.
to say hello to people as you pass them in the street,
Yes.
whereas,
Down south.
you
Yeah, you
know,
get on the tube and nobody looks at
you don't
anybody.
no eye contact. Eye
No, no,
contact is
no.
an aggressive thing. Don't
Mm.
make eye contact. But then I live in a small town, and actually quite frequently I walk past complete strangers and we just say hello, good
Hey up.
morning to each other. So
Everybody,
I
it's,
think it
yeah, it's
depends,
duck
doesn't it?
here. Hey up, duck. Hey
Hey
up,
up,
me
duck.
duck.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
that's a bit familiar. I don't know, it's too southern down here
I
for
don't,
that.
yeah, don't call me a duck. How very dare thee.
How dare you?
But yeah, so that was my thing. And it probably is. You go, anybody who lives in these little towns
Mhm.
will know it's probably not like that at all.
Well, it'd be
But
interesting to know from like any
it
US
really would.
listeners if they're by villages or if they don't call
By
them villages, do
villages?
they?
No, what?
Small
Towns? No,
towns, small towns.
towns. Yeah.
Um, yeah, whether it is like Hallmark movies or not, basically.
Even if I visited, I would imagine it like that. I'd probably get a telling off for jaywalking, or I would do something very wrong,
I would love
and I'd
it.
still love it. Yeah,
More so than going to Florida, I would want to go to a
a
little
little
small
village.
town like in Colorado. Is that like the kind of place you get them,
Mm.
with the snow and the mountain,
Yes.
you
So
know,
you're
for
thinking
Twilight.
Twilight.
Yeah, right. No, that's rainy. That's
Well, yeah,
Seattle.
yeah, that's what comes into my head of a little village and everybody knowing each other.
Yeah.
Twilight.
Mm,
Or Gilmore
okay.
Girls, they're in a little village as well, aren't they? That's got, well,
I've not
that's
seen
what,
that one.
yeah, I've seen bits and pieces of it and all of them kind of, yeah,
Yeah.
lingering
That's
around and
what a
knowing
lot of
each
people
other.
talk about, but I've not done the Gilmore Girls. And to
No,
be
the kids
honest, the
want to do
more
it.
I hear about it and how like some people say how irritating the main characters are, the less likely I'm
Probably
going to
best not.
try it, to be honest.
No,
It's
no.
people love it though. It's like their comfort watch, isn't it, for a lot of people? but
Yeah, but for some people it's other things, and yeah,
yeah,
some people it's like Sons of Anarchy where they were stabbing everybody, or yeah, or Peaky Blinders, which is just
your comfort watch can be very
a bit
different
weird.
things.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So for my second point with the pink gin of whatever flavor,
Of
it's
choice.
yeah, it's vibes. I went for vibes because it's so like when I say it's cozy, it's like it's drenched in it. It's like autumnal and you've got the house described and it's like full of crisp autumn leaves and like everything's got a really descriptive side to it that just I don't know, it just taps in and you get like this really like warm, it's like reading and I picture it in Technicolor. It's really
Yeah,
like
yeah.
vivid and lovely. Like she drives like a yellow beetle,
Of
it's
course she
like
does.
yeah, of course she does. But it's like and Ian wears like a rainbow scarf and you can like it's like lovely color everywhere and like
Does
they
somebody have a yellow Mac, like a
I don't know
raincoat?
if she does at some
Oh,
point or if I'm imagining
a
it from
wellies.
somewhere else.
Bet
But
she
yeah,
does.
like when
Wellies.
she goes into the house, there's all the little kids' shoes lined up at
Mm,
the door, and it's like, and the
high
house
toy.
isn't perfect. It's an old house, but it's warm. It's not always perfectly tidy, and obviously not because they're like setting fire to things. But it's so homely, and it's exactly what she's not had.
Yes.
So she's like straight in there and being brought into this family. But like I heard it a lot before I read it, and it's like people were like, "Oh, it's so cozy," and cozy fantasy was just kind of becoming popular. And then I read it, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, this book is like a warm hug." It's like
Mm,
I wouldn't even say it's got the vibe of a Hallmark movie because it is more UK flavored, definitely. Like it's not so much the twinkly lights as yeah, the
rain and the
crunchy
cold.
leaves and yeah, but like
No.
even so it works.
Yeah. Oh, I like it. Yeah, it's one of the things you can picture it, can't you, when you kind of explain it?
Yeah,
Yeah, you
there
can
is
just
there
see it
is
all.
spice in it too.
Oh,
It's
oh, is
not
there?
like I know as I'm describing it you're probably thinking that sounds
There, to
sweet
close
but
the
they
door.
don't bone, they
They
bone.
don't.
So
In the attic. Please let it be in the attic. That sounds fun.
I'm not gonna say too much.
Oh,
Yeah.
why?
So,
Rude.
yeah.
All right, so my next point. Okay, I've had a drink and I need to try and say this word. Okay,
Okay.
so if you've seen it before, Emma will know my love of letters in books. So it's kind of letters
Oh, yeah, that's the word you're
slash,
trying to
yeah,
say. Yeah.
epistolary. There we go.
Epistolary. Hmm.
So this has the modern day equivalent of letters, which is text.
Oh,
So yeah, he does. He finds her number on the thing, as I said, and he texts her, and she has no idea who she is. No, yeah, she has no idea who he is, and
hmm.
yet the flirting comes a lot quicker than it ever could have done
Okay.
without that hidden thing between them.
Yeah.
Because obviously they were both so shy at the beginning. They were both so young at the beginning, so they couldn't have had those moments. And he had a few issues as a kid with his scarring and his broken horn. He
Yeah.
didn't feel
Oh,
as much as he should have done. So yeah, but I don't know what, I just love the way that it kind of it opens up so many more feelings and emotions that you could never get sort of face to face and really
yeah.
quickly as well. And it's
Yeah.
usually when I've read them, it's usually been a bit more contemporary than fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
which it's still good. But yeah, it's just kind of usually the wrong person has text somebody, or there's always a hidden side somewhere. One doesn't know who the other one is. And I just,
Mm.
yeah, like that there's just that openness that
Yeah.
you can't have when you're face to face, because you have everything else that sits on top of it, the anxiety, the worry.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, when you've got your phone in your hand, you can tweak it and twix it and do what you need. And yeah, it's lovely. I
Yeah.
like it.
Take that like extra bit of time to really think about what you're gonna
Well,
say and
this is it, because once it's there on the
mm.
page, you can't take it back.
It's
So
funny
it's
because like you saying it being more contemporary and it must be like quite a nice you, like me, are very far away from the dating world these days.
Yes.
That must be quite a lovely thing for young people who are out in the dating world, or even older people who are out in the dating world, to experience through books, like book boyfriend type thing,
Mhm.
because clearly messaging in in dating
Well,
world
yeah, it
is
can have
not
its
lovely.
drawbacks. Yeah,
But
it
it
can
must, yeah,
have.
when it works, it must be like really, really nice, and it like harks back to old days as well, like the
Yeah.
pen pals and it's
See, that's what I
nice.
want. I want a fantasy with letters in it. That's
Yeah.
my
Are
thing
you
now.
gonna write one?
My brain has been ticking over all day with this in my
Yeah, you
head,
love
but
them. You really
I
enjoy them.
do. I
But
really do.
sometimes it's like the thing you enjoy is not necessarily.
Yeah, you'll never do it justice as the one that sort of
Maybe.
grabbed you
I'm
and
sure
shook
you
you.
could, but it's
That's
whether or not you want to try it,
that'll
isn't it?
be a dabbling at some point. But I'm curious,
Mm.
in the 90s, how did people actually then send dick pics? Do you think there were Polaroids that people were? I
The
can't imagine going
90s.
to the little Kodak shop or Boots to go and get your
You
pictures
know what
made.
happened. It wasn't that. It was just flashes. That was all it was.
Was he wearing a yellow Mac, love?
This is it. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I've like skipped that. I was kind of in like the era of when when I was like dating, so I've been with my partner for a long time.
Yeah.
It was like day like texting when it took you forever to
Yeah.
text,
Good.
the
Yeah.
S.
Oh,
You
you never wanted the R or the S, did you, at the very end?
I think maybe predictive text had just
Oh,
about come in by the time I was like towards the end of secondary school. Would that have been?
jeez. Probably.
I don't
I got
know.
my first phone at 16, which I had to
Yeah.
pay for myself, and it cost like 40 quid, and it took me forever to save for it.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, we're not necessarily relevant in some ways, but your lovely letters between them, or
Oh,
texts, as it were. It's
yes.
always nice. Yeah. Like you say, they can like get more vulnerable with each other and very fast.
But
Did
does
you read The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy? That one.
oh, I don't think so. Doesn't
You
ring a
haven't read
bell.
that.
Oh, is that
That I think that might be, obviously when this comes out, it probably won't be anymore, but I think it's in the Kindle deal. I think you
oh,
would like
oh.
it.
Okay, you'll have to remind me of that when we're done so I can write
Yeah.
it down again.
Hmm.
But yeah, it does, it warms me cockles, it does.
Yes. Um, okay, so my last little bit is like for the little, like it's almost like a cherry on top, but not. It's a plot twist. So there
Ah,
is actually a plot
love a plot
twist in
twist.
this. And it was like, but it's funnily done because you've kind of got this overhanging thing about when the solicitor's going to come, and obviously a lot of other stuff going on, the kids with their magic and like all these lovely relationships that are building, and her relationship with Jamie. And when the plot twist comes, you just not like, you have an idea that something's going to happen, but not, it hasn't been consuming, it wasn't consuming my mind as I was reading it. And I actually really liked that, because I find if I know going into a book there's a plot twist, it's all you think about.
You're dissecting everything,
Yeah,
yeah.
everything is like you're just looking and second guessing everything. And I think some readers clearly absolutely love that, like with psychological thrillers and things. But you get a
Mm.
lot of plot twists through, you know, fantasy as well. It's just how is it handled, and does it detract from other elements of the story if it's not meant to be for that particular reason, if it's just part of the story rather than the point of the story. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, like when people read like crime thrillers, that the plot twist is the point,
Yeah,
isn't it, a lot
it
of the
has to be
time?
in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it has to be a good one. I read one years ago, and it was like the ending of a series as well. And it's like, oh, it's random Fred from over the road who's never
Yeah.
been mentioned, and you feel so robbed.
Yeah. And I have to say this is a good one in that, even though it's not there like for you constantly questioning it, when it happens you go, oh,
Yeah. Oh,
You know?
makes sense
Yeah, and you
now.
can go back and like when I was doing my notes and I was like,
Yeah, you
oh,
can see the thread there.
I
Very
like that.
clever.
That's clever. I like when
Yeah.
you can go back. I don't like it, like you say, when it's just like, boom, here,
Yeah.
haha. And what if they're not actually this thing, they're the other thing, and blah blah. You're like, okay, just for shock tactics there.
Yeah. Yeah. That was robbed. But I don't know. I don't read many cozy ones, but plot
Mhm.
twists, yeah, it seems a weird concept for me to have them in there. But yeah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be expecting it in the
Mm-mm.
slightest. It would come and hit me like a frying pan.
Yeah, exactly. It's an odd mixture. I'm clearly going for weird mixes. I was
Yeah.
doing like
Gin and
Paladin's
Prosecco.
Grace. Yeah. I was doing like Paladin's Grace and it was like, oh, it's really cozy, the knitted warrior and the guy
Yeah,
decapitating
the
people.
decapitated heads, yeah.
Yeah. Like what's going on here?
That's it. But then I messaged you earlier, like, yeah, but you did have decapitated heads. And you're like, but it was in a cozy way.
In a cozy way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's like
And a
I
crochet
get
cushion.
I get attracted to like yeah that is it. It's like
A
that
severed
sense of
head on a
humor.
cozy
Yeah, yeah.
cushion.
But it's like I think I like the
Wow.
contradictory nature of it. Like you have the funniness and the lightness, and then it's contrasted with the dark. And I think
Yeah.
that's where also my sense of humor meets. So it's like
You
I
can
will find
dabble a
it
little
quite
bit.
funny. Yeah.
Well, you do know I started crochet, so you know what you're getting for Christmas.
Ah! Oh, I want one of those ones that's like no fucks left to give and
I
stuff,
so
like the
love them.
embroidery.
Yes. Oh, if I can learn to make those, like I said, I'm just going to give those away to
Yeah.
anybody. You have one. You have a pillow. You have
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's not the way you make money though, giving it
No, I know.
away.
And it takes me forever to do any of it. So it'll be a long time till anybody
It's
gets them. But
awesome. Yeah.
still,
You should put up your picture of your one because
of
you were talking
my
about it.
Frankenstein
And
Jigglypuff.
it's not a Frankenstein. It's
When you look closely,
cool.
he does. It is, yeah.
You don't
Leo
have to.
likes it, which is the main
That's
point.
the
The
point.
boy likes it,
Yeah.
even though
Lovely.
it's pink and it looks quite phallic on his head, which you can't unsee once you've seen it. No
Yeah.
matter how I tweak it, it still
If
looks my
he's
pink.
anything like my daughter of the similar age, that's not a downside. That's just going to
No,
be
that's
cause
just
for
make it more
hilarity.
funny.
Yeah.
If I pull it this way, no.
Yeah.
See, and he has one. He can do all the things with
Clearly,
it.
she takes after her mother in that sense of humour stakes.
Toilet humor is still alive and kicking from 8 to mid-40s in my house.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
May it never end.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's it. Episode
That's it.
4.
We was very, very cozy and sweet this week. I
I
think
need
we
to see
made
what I've
up
got
for
next week.
last week, maybe because last week was literally all the red flags, and this
Duck.
week is like
Oh, the green flags.
the opposite. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It's all like, oh,
Go forth and cuddle. There we
yeah,
go.
that's
I
it.
like it.
Go forth for good.
There we go.
You've done it.
Okay,
You've
I'm
named
doing it
it.
again. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, lovely. Right. So I think next week's our last week of individual books, isn't it?
I feel that I need to tweak it now just to get something a little bit
You got
more
what?
grey in.
You're not quite sure. You
I
haven't
do have
decided
it.
upon it yet.
It what the one that is next is the one that I read the furthest to go, so I really do need to get on it.
We got a little bit longer
Yes.
between like recording. We've got a
Yes,
little
for
bit of
us.
a yes. So it'll be the same time next week for the
Yeah, for you it's
episode.
all fine.
Yeah, it's all fine.
The
That's
magic of
magic.
production.
Yeah, we're doing it. I even went in and out of focus. It was
Yeah,
like,
just to show
woo.
the big point.
Yeah.
And stop.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So follow us on all the socials. You know where we are. If you don't, you can come and find us at anything with an at SFF Rumcast on it. We have the email. Yeah, you can come and chat to us. We always say hi.
That's it. And yeah, hopefully you'll join us next week.
Indeed, we'll be here.
Yeah. You'll be under the table.
I'll be later. I'll send you a picture.
Nice. See you later.